good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is around your way. Oh, I forgot. Good evening. What's up, Jeff?
What's up,
Ah,
Kimo?
we're gonna we don't put both our governments out there, so that's a good way to start the show.
Yep.
um, so it's been a lot going on this week, but we kind of just decided to just cut it down to one topic, and we'll talk about the rest later. But Colin Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick. I don't know. Just this is my first time saying, and I guess that this may be a bad way to open up, but you you know what gangs are, right?
Oh,
Of,
yeah,
of
I guess.
Oh yeah, of course you know what gangs are. But I just feel like I spend a lot of time in comment sections, and I just feel like if you're willing to hurt someone over a flag, that doesn't make you patriotic. That makes you a gangbanger.
I don't know what makes you a gangbanger. It's definitely a uniquely American thing to be obsessed with it. Flags and stuff, and which is it's good and it's bad. You know,
Hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I just it's not a knock against the flag, but I just wish people would take themselves away from a situation for just a moment and recognize that we are talking about an inanimate object in which people have laid their life down for their country, but they also laid their life down for the right for us to be. And everybody doesn't feel as if they can be, if that makes any sense.
I agree, but back up a little bit and kind of explain what's got him in such hot water.
Yeah, okay. Well, pretty much if you are in America right now, you know what's going on with the whole Colin Kaepernick fiasco, well, which some would call it. But Colin Kaepernick is taking a stance and sitting down during the national anthem, and his reason for doing so is saying that I will not stand for a country, basically saying I will not stand for a country that does not stand for me. Um, well, people in general, not me, because that's one of the ways in which people keep changing the narrative, thinking that he's speaking it that he is opposed, not opposed, oppressed, or speaking as if he feels a way about white people. But he never said anything about white people. He said something about this country, the country in which we live in.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. It's a little strange that all the memes and everything that are out there on Facebook and social media have things to do with white people oppressing Colin Kaepernick and everything like that. And he doesn't never explicitly mention white people oppressing him, or specifically white people oppressing people of color. It's and that's what's kind of driven driven a divide between everybody because nobody, I mean, not nobody, but a lot of people misunderstand that kind of demonstration to be an affront to their, I don't know, to their patriotic feelings, but it doesn't really they're not one and the same. They're different feelings. Like you can be patriotic and not like what's going on in the country and protest. I don't I, I don't necessarily like his method of protest, but I mean I can definitely understand it, and to see all the misconstrued statements about what he's standing for and how it's an it's weird that white people get mad about that when somebody's talking about uh, people of color being oppressed, that makes white people angry. Like that's a little hard to take and stomach sometimes. And that's my take on that. Even as a white person, that's a little like, come on, geez.
And I've spent a lot of time saying the exact same thing to the point where I just kind of like I wanted to just get away from social media for a while because I was tired of seeing all of the stuff that I was seeing, and not only that, it's like, like people in which you think so highly of begin to disappoint you, and it's just like, it's 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 just communication, and that's something that we're built on here, where Gregory, we don't agree all the time. We don't always agree. It's times on a daily basis in which me and you disagree, but that never like stops anything, and that never stops you from understanding me and me understanding you. And I just feel like that's a problem anytime an event can drive a wedge between people from communicating. And it's like, hear me out. Hear me out, opposed to changing the narrative and jumping to conclusions. Because it's like, the reason why you protest, and this is why I don't have a problem with what he's doing, is because it's like, I've never seen a protest that was done that did not make people mad. It's supposed to bring attention. That's what a protest is. It's supposed to be something that you look at and like, oh, I wasn't really paying attention until this individual did this. And it's like, you don't have that. It's like, okay, he's providing you what you need in order for you to pay attention to what's going on, but you just criticize him.
I mean, he deserves. I mean, he did something in the public eye, so to say that he shouldn't be criticized is I mean, I don't know. He should be criticized, but I think
as heavily.
I'm sure. I mean, people can, just like he can sit down to the national anthem, they can criticize him however they want. But the upsetting thing is that just because you can say whatever you want doesn't mean that you can yell fire in a crowded room. So just because you don't like what somebody says or how they express themselves, I think before you make a judgment and an assumption, you should at least look into why somebody's doing it. And if you've done that, you can't possibly come to the conclusion that, oh my God, his parents are white, he's so oppressed, he makes $19 million, he's so oppressed. That's not the point.
He never even said anything about him being oppressed. So you are exactly right.
So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's, if you can't come to that conclusion if you took 3 seconds to think about it, if you don't like the behavior, good on you. I don't like it either. I think I don't think that's appropriate. But if he feels that way, and he feels that way for a pretty good reason, I mean, then that's okay to me. Do I like the form of protest? Not really. If he would have done that on his own at a press conference or something, or expressed that mannerism or not a mannerism, if he would have expressed that idea in a press conference on his own, I'm all for you. But I don't know. But the root of the issue is that nobody will see or try to figure out why he's doing it, instead of just criticizing him and calling him an idiot and a moron. He may be an idiot and a moron, okay, whatever. But I mean, to say that without any thought or any consideration for why he might be doing the thing he's doing is a little crazy.
Yeah. I was about to say something about that, but I feel where you're coming from to an extent.
And a lot of good tweets have been going out, and I kind of saw this talking about the way Muhammad Ali felt about the Vietnam War and about going to jail. I mean, he was a draft dodger, so and everybody loves him.
Well, let's not call it draft dodging.
Well, no, he was a draft dodger. But would I have done the same thing in his situation? Maybe. Would I have said the same things? Maybe. But that's what he was. He called a spade a spade. He dodged the draft. He went to jail. But if you he was heavily criticized for that.
Yeah, I know. And but what I'm saying is for people to say that they have a problem with Kaepernick now, but they love him.
That's my point. Yeah. Exactly right. I mean, there's no difference. and what the point is that they're trying to make
Oh,
are very similar.
it's different because Muhammad Ali was much more raw in his delivery, much more.
Well, absolutely, that's true. There's a video, you should YouTube it, of his press conference when he gets released from jail. I'm sure if you Googled that video, he says something to the effect that he's not going to fight for a country that's not going to fight for me.
Uh-huh.
And at that point in time, with the context of what we know what was going on at the time, how could you not think that way? If you can't eat at the same counter as somebody else and that you're expected to go to war for that country, you feel some type of way about it. And then he sees some injustice going on and he feels some way about it and he'd like to say something. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I think the backlash is just ridiculous. It's making sure that no real dialogue happens. If you put this out there and all this negative stuff out there, you're not going to have a dialogue. You're going to have a shouting match. You're going to call somebody an idiot on social media and you're going to close the laptop lid.
I've been trying to refrain from doing that.
And that's all you're going to do. And everybody, it's weird that, talking about politics and everything that divides people. Politics is not dividing people. It's these and these pundits on these news shows that are dividing people, putting these weird ideas in people's heads. Think for yourself.
What's the girl named Tommy Lauren? Lauren.
Oh, Tommy Lauren. Yeah, that girl she just works people up, pulls the heartstrings, goes for what she thinks the audience wants, and she just says things to get people fired up that most of the time aren't even factually true.
Yeah.
Just are not right. Just because she thinks they sound good. And she's just pandering to the audience that she has instead of pushing a dialogue forward. Because what's the point of having a grudge or a negative opinion of something if you can't really back it up in an argument? You can't.
And her audience listens because I've seen a lot of people posting her.
She's huge. Huge, millions and millions and millions of views on YouTube, Facebook, and all that. So, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, and it's frightening because that's all they want to see. That's all they want to hear is what comes out of her mouth. And most of the time, like I said, on balance, it's skewed. It's hyperbole. It's just nonsense most of the time.
Yeah. And you want to know something crazy, something that I recognized earlier this week? The league did not speak out against this. They said that, they don't encourage it, but there's nothing in the bylaws that says that you have to stand for the national anthem. And I thought that was, I wanted to clap for that because I felt as if the league could have shot it down. And they still could do so, but they haven't. I really feel as if they probably gonna blackball them, but we'll see. We'll see in the moments to come.
Yeah, and who knows? People in my family we've been talking about this amongst ourselves too, and it really hasn't. The conversation hasn't gravitated towards what. Did he do this? Does he feel like he's oppressed? That kind of thing. What it's kind of gravitated to, and this might be more the real truth, is why did he do it in that way? Like, what is he trying to prove? Like, he hasn't made any sort of, at least in the public ether and what most people would think, he hasn't made a big stink about anything. He's just kind of played football. You haven't really heard from him in this kind of way before. And now all of a sudden you hear from him and he does something crazy like this. Is there a motivation behind it or whatever? We'll never know. But
if you follow him on social media, you'll see that this has been his rhetoric for a while. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. It's just that he took this opportunity to take a stance, and I'm happy with it because it's starting to wake some other people up. I think that you may see more as in the weeks to come. Not only this, I may actually get to watch basketball this year because I might actually get something that I am okay with from the NBA because of what people in the WNBA and what people are in the NFL are doing. So
yeah, I think we really those leagues. Those are, I mean, those are big pillars of black culture, and a lot of black people play football and basketball. Like you, I'm surprised that able to do something like this a little earlier, especially with all the players and stuff. And we talked about that last episode. You know, they do have a brand to protect, and they want something concrete that they can say that's not too controversial, that's not to hurt the brand image and all that and viewership. But we've got to communicate, and the people that have these ideas have to communicate to the public that just because you have this stance on everything doesn't make you some, you know, anti-white kind of, you know, it's not an anti-white thing, which is really strange that, you know, like we talk about the memes and everything.
We say it all the time. Being pro-black does not make you anti-white.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me, because that's not. I mean, I'm just saying I've taken a little time to process that, and also this weird logic that will lead you to believe that if somebody's doing something, that white people are oppressing people of color only exclusively, then that leads you to believe, and we talked about this, the logic that white people are in charge of everything. So that you have this inherent belief that white people are in charge of everything. And when somebody does something you don't do, it's actually an affront to you. And that's strange to me. That's a strange logic to have in your head.
Well,
especially
when we talk about this all the time as where racism is a problem, but one of the main issues is capitalism. And that's, people don't recognize the illusion of inclusion. Like, you have white people who are in the same boat as me, if not worse, and feel as if they are better than me. And instead of recognizing that, hey, we are in the same boat, not necessarily the same boat, because I feel as if my boat is a little different, but still, like, at least in the same waters. And I wish that people will recognize these things, because if we could, that's what I don't understand. It's like, if I'm able to get this information and I'm able to connect dots and recognize that this is a problem, why is it that other people can't do that?
Because it's your problem. It's not their problem. Well, you know, that's
right.
But that's and the thing you said about capitalism is I don't necessarily agree with that. It's the illusion of capitalism. It's the illusion of competition. It's the illusion of a truly free market. You know, that doesn't exist. We have, you know, if we had true capitalism in this country, and that doesn't mean that the government has no input onto how business is conducted. You know, that's not what capitalism means. You create a competitive environment so that business can thrive. You have to have rules for that. You know, if you played a football game and you could have 30 players on one team and 2 players on the other, the team with 30 players, no matter how shitty they are, there's 30 of them against 2. Capitalism is a rule book for which 2 teams can play, and the best team wins, and then that team progresses and does well. That's not a crazy idea. That's not some communist utopian idea. That's just what capitalism is. We have this weird idea in this country that capitalism is just, you know, balls to the walls, no rules, just, you know, lion eating a deer on the Serengeti type of bullshit. Not even close. You know, that's what we've become, you know, we've fallen victim to here, thinking that that's the case. And it's not. It's ridiculous. And to bring it all back, what that creates is winners and losers all the time. And not just, you know, people that lose a little, you know, and get back on their feet and try again. No, I mean, we create systems in this country where we have losers that can't ever be anything but losers. If you're making $7.50 an hour, like we talked about, you're never going to own a McDonald's. you're high as a kite if you think you can eventually buy a McDonald's if you stay making $7.50 an hour.
Yeah.
You're never gonna. You can't even get another job making You can't making $7.50 an hour. If something happens to you, if you need a new set of tires, that's like 2 weeks worth of your income.
Yeah.
I mean, one little thing like tires or somebody getting sick or just anything, that the system that we live in just creates these people that just can't do anything. They just get stuck.
You just said a lot, and I can't like reply to all of that, but I do want to backtrack and go back to the point where you said that it is not, they don't care because it is not their problem. And I had to come to a realization with that because I recognize that I'm asking a lot out of my athletes, because you know what I said at the beginning of the Olympics. I'm like, if there's a problem in this country in which, for the most part, only black people recognize or people of color recognize, if that's the case, then all of these people who are playing basketball overseas that make all of this money from the NBA and are okay and don't necessarily need that Olympics, then just sit out. Just sit out. And then whatever we send to Rio is whatever we send to Rio. And let's see if we can win with that. But I recognize that I ask a lot out of our athletes. But why is it that it's only people of color that can speak up? Like, something that just hurt my heart is Drew Brees. When Drew Brees spoke out against Colin Kaepernick, and it's like I've followed Drew Brees for years, and I've seen the things that he's done in New Orleans and stuff like that. That's why I kind of it hit me the wrong way when I seen him speaking out against Colin Kaepernick the way that he did, because I'm like, wow, like I'm a Saints fan, and this is Drew Brees, and I've held this man dear to my heart for years, and to see this, like it hit me the wrong way, and I'm just looking at it like, why is it?
Do you feel that way because you would think that through all the good work that he's done, that he would recognize that certain things affect people of color a little differently than everybody else? Or
not only that, living right in New Orleans, like you said all the time, like right here in this coastal area, we have a high population of black people, and you living in New Orleans since what? How long has he been living in New Orleans? Since what, 2006, 2005? Like, how haven't you seen this stuff? What's up?
Yeah, there's a psychology to that I don't completely understand, but it may have something to do with feeling that that you are somehow like a white guilt kind of thing, that people just don't want to acknowledge transgressions that have happened to a certain group of people, to certain groups of people in this country. Now that's a kind of weird thing, because I've had to deal with that myself and kind of not like internalize it, but like think about it and know that I'm not directly responsible for that. I didn't do those things, but to not acknowledge that because it's some sort of a thing where you may not feel that, that's happening because it hasn't happened to you. Or that, that you may feel in some way a little responsible, or somebody may make you feel responsible for something that you don't agree with. And that kind of thing is a little weird. I mean, people don't like to acknowledge things that they've done wrong, or even that people that look like you do wrong. Like, it doesn't hurt me to say that Thomas Jefferson, was a slave owner and probably not a very good guy, and had a bunch of illegitimate children with all of his slaves, and probably not all, probably didn't consent to all of that. That doesn't hurt me. I mean, I'm not related to Thomas Jefferson, so why should that make me feel bad?
Yeah.
That's completely independent of me, but some people don't think that way.
Like, I just don't understand why something that a person does that may look like you, why should that resonate as something that you did? Like, exactly. That has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, think about that for just a couple of seconds. Like, that's ridiculous to think that way. That's like me expecting you to be able to, like, play a professional sport, like right now. Like, why aren't you doing that? Like, that's silly. Everybody, you know, that's almost racist in itself, I guess, kind of.
And I don't know. Like I question. Like I'm not even gonna lie. Yesterday I was on some stuff because I'm thinking about all of this stuff that was going on, and it's causing me to like look at people differently. And then I look at you, and I'm like, man, Jeff Gregory is just different because Gregory didn't grow up here. Like I'm wondering, like I'm sitting back and I'm just trying to break everything down. It's like you're a very well-rounded individual, but you're not from here. And you've seen more of the world than some people can hope to see within their lifetime. And all of that has a lot to do. And that's not just, I mean, it's more people. It's not to say that you're the only person like that around here, but I was just on some stuff yesterday.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It brings a lot of stuff out of the woodwork, and that's a lot of things that people are very passionate about. Talking about the flag, talking about the flag and being patriotic and stuff means a lot to people. Mm-hmm. And that's a really, like I said, even to me, who like didn't grow up in the States a lot, especially like during high school and stuff, when I was very young, but it means a lot to me. I think that stuff should be respected, but I mean, you can't just take your own opinion and then just about it. You gotta think about it. Why did somebody do it? That's like saying, like, why did like when you're parenting, your kid stole something from the candy store, and why did you don't just slap them. You got to tell them. You could slap them; they might deserve it, but I mean, you got to tell them why that's wrong, and then ask why they did that. Why did you think you needed to do that? Mm-hmm. You have to figure it out, because if they don't understand why you can't steal or what motivated them to steal, then what's the point of slapping them? They may remember that, but eventually they might do it again because they don't have the grasp of the concept. Same thing with this guy.
I'd have been slapped sometime, and and I didn't know exactly why it was wrong or why I shouldn't have did it, but I know I just shouldn't do it again. But yeah, I also look at it like people, like when I said earlier about people changing the narrative and making it about the military. Like I don't understand how people can jump ship and jump all the way over here, and that has nothing to do with the truth, but you create an argument. And even with that, it's something to be said about that, because it's been, for Black people have fought in every war that America has ever fought. But when you come back from fighting for the country, you still don't have the same rights in which other people have. And not to say that is much. I was just going to say, not to say as it's not as bad as recent, but it's some people who, you had slaves fighting in the Revolutionary War. You had slaves fighting in the War of 1812. You had slaves fighting in the Civil War. And you had just as recent as World War II, where Black people could not even fight. Yes. So it's kind of like, why is it that we have to continue to revisit this conversation when you've had people who have taken a stand, or people who have taken a sit? Because Rosa Parks did the same thing, and people did not like it at the time. So I just don't recognize as, like, you have to go through pains in order to give birth. But I just don't recognize why the labor pains are still the same in 2016.
Like I said, until we get over this white guilt stuff and just start acknowledging things and not internalizing, I don't know if it's internalizing the right word, but not taking or not feeling assaulted when somebody makes a claim about oppression that's happened by a system. Like that assumes, number one, that only white people are in charge of everything. And that's ridiculous. That's not true. And then
I
number
don't.
two, like it assumes that your feelings of uncomfortable, your feeling of being uncomfortable is more important than somebody's feeling of stress because of an oppression that they actually feel today.
Do you remember a few weeks ago, probably a few months ago, when we first started doing this, and how I said that I like my emotions were completely out of me when it came to just gaining an understanding. So I wanted to sit down and be able to listen to people and listen to their point of view without judging them, and to be able to think and have a response that suits the need of that individual. And how I was saying that I feel like I can sit down and talk to a blown out racist right now. You remember me saying that?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I literally wanted to talk to someone in the KKK, like just to see. I want to understand why you feel this way, like why, like what is so deeply instilled in you to make you feel the way that you feel. Uh, and I just don't understand why people can't sit down and have dialogue. Because at the end of the day, as long as you're not putting your hands on me, we good. We can talk. Like we might, even if it leads to us being loud and fussing. Like as long as you're not putting your hands on me, I'm not putting my hands on you. We good. Like let's talk. I
And that's what I'm
don't
saying.
understand it.
And that's a good point. And that's what brings us back to some what I was saying earlier about why people create these straw man arguments about things. That's what divides people. That's what gets people so charged up. You pick something that people are very passionate about, the national anthem and the flag and respecting and the reverence of the national anthem and all that, and the military, and you make that, and then you can whip your audience into a frenzy where they'll interact with your page, to click on your article, watch your video, and create revenue for your media enterprise.
And it's a shame that people don't even recognize that,
And that's, I mean,
because
as simple as that. It's like 2 + 2 is 4. Like it's that easy. Like if you
somebody
can't
that I really respect, Sean King. You ever Sean King?
No.
I post some of his stuff from time to time. He's a journalist in New York. Works for, is it? I forgot what journal he works for. I can't think of it at the moment.
Why was I thinking John Kingston?
No, not Sean
Kingston. Not that
guy. But yeah, Sean King. Like
Okay.
I like some of the stuff that he posts, but sometimes I feel that same thing coming from him, and I don't buy into some of the stuff, because I recognize that at the end of the day, he's a journalist, and some stuff could just be to get us riled up and to get it's clickbait, to get likes, to get shares and things of that nature. So
Yeah.
I just don't think that most people recognize that we are being played for suckers. And what's that? The book that I was reading not too long ago, the 48 Laws of Power. It speaks about suckers, and that's one thing that I've never wanted to be. Way before I read that book, I never wanted to be anyone's sucker. I want anyone to be able to take advantage of me and make me do things in which I don't want to do. I want to be able to stand on my own too as a man, and I don't recognize how that does not resonate within other people. Not necessarily just saying a man or a woman. And me and you, we talk from time to time, and it's some stuff that you believe that you not bending on, and some stuff that I believe that I ain't bending on. And we might recognize that this is a conversation that we might just leave alone and agree to disagree, but that's not going to stop anything. So that's why I just don't understand why people can't sit down and have simple dialogue. It's just, talk.
It's not hard.
Not hard at all.
Yeah, that's what I hope that we will get across, because we, like anybody else, would like to grow and get clicks and get likes and do all that stuff. I mean, whatever. But do we really want to do it of insulting our audience? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think so. I like to think that, the people that are tuning in are listening for a certain reason. That's just to figure out a more a more real take on it without having that motivation, just that motivation to rile you up and get you angry and to get you commenting and stuff. I mean, that's good and all. And, you know, these people have to make a living and I respect that, but you got to have some integrity. And I think I've read something by this guy now that I've had a chance to Google him, and he is a little incendiary. Some of the stuff is rooted in truth, but like I said, it does seem on the same, not as bad, but could be the flip side of that coin of that. Tommy, what's her last name? The Blaze girl, Tommy Lahern.
Lauren.
Lahren, Loren or whatever. Whatever. You know, just the other side of the coin, which is just, I mean, it's so bad. Like, don't be like that. Like,
and that's why I wouldn't necessarily say on the other side of the coin of her, because she's a little outrageous.
Is that because you don't like what she says?
Huh?
Is that because you don't like what she says?
Well, I've never heard any truth come out of her mouth, but at the same time, I ain't checking for her like that. So you might be
exactly.
right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine if you had a, you know, if you had a horn that played Dixie and had two big old, you know, rebel flags coming out the back of your truck, and how would you feel about this guy?
You already know how I'm feeling like that guy, so then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I respect him, and I know that he has some good content out there. It's just there's some stuff be like, you know, I'm gonna let you sit on that.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to jump into that puddle. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day. I just feel like we all have differences, and we're all diverse, and at the same time we're very fickle as human beings also. And I just wish that we could recognize that yes, there may be some differences, but there's also a lot of similarities if we would just sit down.
Yeah, there's common ground to be found almost everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And I felt that, I mean, the whole craze is over, but for a moment there, you know, I was playing a little Pokemon Go, and that's something that I thought that was beautiful of it. Like, people wasn't sitting down and thinking that, oh, this is a black man and he looks threatening, or this is a Hispanic or person. And it was even a point in time where I seen a white guy out there with a concealed weapon on him, and I didn't even think anything about it, because I'm like, well, we're just out here playing Pokemon. And sometimes I can be a bit naive, but I just looked at it like, you know, we all out here just doing what we're doing, and we're talking and laughing and rejoicing with one another. You caught Charizard. No, I didn't catch Charizard, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the fact that it was a point in time in which people, not only did they come together throughout their diversity, but really wanting someone else to thrive also. Like, if someone sees something that's rare, they call it, hey, it's a Hitmonchan over here. Everybody come over here. And it's like it's not that hard. We make things so complex when they're so simple. Like, this what we have right here can be magnified and can take place in everything throughout the whole country, but it doesn't. And that's a problem. So when we're talking about freedom, and we're talking about liberty and justice for all and all of these things, like, it's something that should hold true for each and every individual in this country. Not only when it comes to freedom, but when it comes to accountability, people should be held accountable in the same manners, as far as justice being served. Like, if what's the boy name? Brock Turner. I think he's getting out tomorrow. I think that a young woman was denied justice in that situation. And you remember when we did the podcast on that, I said that individual, like, where people was trying to bring up the Corey guy, and saying that he got 15 plus years for rape.
Yeah, good.
So I don't know. I feel when we're actually able to sit down and converse about these things without someone getting upset, and it's kind of like the same thing I told you that as far as with black people, and I can say this within myself, when people, it's kind of hard because people will try to play you. But it's kind of, you have to kind of know when someone is being serious and being genuine, and someone literally wants to know and wants to pick your brain about something, but you automatically jump into defense mode. You can't have that on either side if you're gonna make progress.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I wish people would that had a little bit more public voice than we do would wouldn't be afraid to say things that need to be said. Like I mean, somebody out there that's that has a huge voice should acknowledge that to do this.
That's why I like when Jim Brown said that he's 100% behind them, and I feel as if more athletes, not black athletes, not Hispanic athletes, not
Just everybody.
white athletes, everybody. I wish that they would use those platforms to bring awareness to those things in which they feel strongly about, because it's like I told you, as far as when it comes to the masses don't sit down and even go to church together for the most part. You have some churches that are mixed congregations, but for the most part, you have white churches, black churches, Hispanic churches. You don't really have where they mingle, and that's a problem. But we can't even sit down and worship God together. But there is one thing that we can do in this country together, and that's watch sports.
Yeah.
Let's watch sports. So these guys have some of the most profound voices throughout the country. Entertainers, because I hate to say it, but we put a lot of our stock and a lot of our value into entertainment. And we give them that platform to be able to speak out and say, and bring awareness to stuff, because there's some stuff that may get brought to the table that I had no idea of, and it's like, you know what, yeah, like I'm glad he brought awareness to that. We need to be speaking and trying to bring forth change in that area. So we'll see. I'm watching it very close, and I'm wanting to see what happens next.
Yeah, then we need to ask the folks what they think about this midweek platform and bringing it to them, maybe more than once a week. Just so if you have any questions or feedback, go ahead and let us know on our social media outlets.
Yeah, y'all already know. Y'all can hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on IG, hit us up on Snapchat, hit us up on Google Plus, and you can even email us at weareunderstood@gmail.com. You can just on YouTube, because that's where we at now. So when we doing these things live, if you're subscribed, then you'll be able to see and interact with us as we're doing these. So yeah, there will still be times in which we'll get together and do a actual podcast, but I like these. I like this little experiment, and
me too.
Can see us doing this because we can see something, see an article with this, and see it as it's happening and jump right on it, opposed to having to wait till where we can get together, all meet in one place, and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I already told you y'all can hit us up in all of these different places. We'll see you a little later. I'm signing out, Broke.
Good night.